Hey everyone, Mah-Dry-Bread here. Pokemon with Lotad and Seedot was insanely brutal. Let's follow that up with a goofy and fun run. Today's the day we figure out, would I be able to beat Skyrim with only stolen items? This might be a weird one. So in Elder Scrolls games, you can steal just about any item that you can see. You've still got to try to not get caught, of course, but as long as you're stealthy enough, you can rob most people blind. The problem is, the items will be marked as stolen and can't be sold to normal merchants, and if you're arrested, you'll lose all of your stolen goods. Goods are only marked as stolen if the owner was alive, so that means no scavenging for equipment after a fight. If the game doesn't mark it as stolen, we can't use it. Like always, I'm writing the script as I go through with the challenge, so all this part is being written before I've started. Everyone comment down below and guess if I can win or not. I'm pretty sure that I can do it, but seeing as I don't have a great knowledge of where all the good stuff is, this could be slow. I just hope that our starting flame spell is enough to carry us until we steal our first good weapon. Let's explain the rules. We can only use items and equipment if they're marked as stolen. We're allowed to use mandatory quest items such as keys if they're required for progress. We're still allowed to use lockpicks regardless of whether they're stolen or not, or else we just wouldn't get many chances to actually steal. Lastly, only cosmetic mods are allowed. I'm not allowed to use any mods that will affect gameplay. Also, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let's do this. So let's start with character creation. This time I decided to be a Bosmer, this series' version of the Wood Elf. They start with skill and things that we're interested in, like light armor, lockpicking, pickpocket, and sneak. They also have archery skill, although I'm not sure we'll be using that since I don't know how practical it is to steal arrows. As soon as we've got our hands unbound, we took off the rags and set our hands on fire. We look like a lunatic right now. The tutorial area of the game was thankfully pretty easy. You start with both a basic healing spell as well as the flame spell. Neither is super strong, but is better than just using our fists. It feels really weird passing up all these bodies though, and not having any reason to loot in an Elder Scroll game is kinda weird. I'm still picking up a few items that might be worth some decent money to sell, but I honestly doubt that we're gonna need much money since I can't actually use anything that I'd buy. Really, I just need money for the horse cart guy who will fast travel us to the new cities for the first time. Anyway, the moment that we get free reign, I go to Whiterun and get ready to search for anything good that we can steal. I was able to get a steel dagger from the blacksmith shop, as well as some leather boots and a bow from right in front of the dude at the Drunken Huntsman. I couldn't find any arrows though. Other than that though, I couldn't really find anything good in the shops in town. I was hoping for a spell book or maybe some mage's robes, but I didn't have any luck. So right now it's just boots and a dagger for practical equipment. Whenever we hover over stolen goods, by the way, it'll say stolen on the right side of the info box. That's how we can tell apart stolen goods from random things we pick up just in case we ever pick something up by mistake. Oh, and on our first level up, I take more maximum magicka and take the perk that cuts the magicka cost for novice destruction spells in half. This might not pay off, but I get the feeling that we'll be stuck with the basic flame spell for a little while. I'll try and keep you guys up to date on my perk points this run, since a lot of you guys were asking to see more of that in the previous Skyrim challenge that I did. The first dungeon of the game is Bleak Barrow, and this is a pretty simple one. I quickly learned that doing quick bursts of our flame spell is a lot more cost effective than continually spraying fire non-stop, although it's still really weak. When we got to the spider bear, we beat it by just slowly spraying fire at it from the gaps in the wall before destroying the spider web. This might seem cheap, but not only does it already work even better in the base game, but this bear can end us in 2 hits, so we're being safe. Oh, by the way, so many of you thanked me for making the spiders look like bears in the previous Skyrim challenge that I'm just gonna keep that as a staple part of my challenges. You get Skyrim without heart attack-inducing spiders. Anyway, the Draugr on the lower floors are pretty easy to deal with, but I don't think this spell is gonna cut it for much longer. So I took the opportunity to sneak as much as I could to get more sneak skill. I get the feeling that this will be more useful in the long run. The Draugr boss at the end of the dungeon wasn't bad, but I don't think the flame spell is going to cut it much longer. The next story mission involves fighting a dragon, so I should probably find some real armor. I decided to hit up the horse and cart dude and start paying to travel to a bunch of major cities so that I can fast travel there in the future. I need to go to some of them for story quests later in this run, but if we go early, then we get the chance to hit up some shops to see if we can steal anything good. First, I hit up some blacksmith quarters in Windhelm, but all I could find that I wanted was a hide shield and another steel dagger. Not too great, but dual-wielding daggers is great for sneak attacks. Next, I found a potion shop. I managed to steal a few potions here, but nothing too major. Still, it's nice to at least have some kind of emergency healing. In fact, most places I checked seem to just have potions as their best loot. I can't seem to find any light armor laying around, and I don't think sneaking with heavy armor is the best plan. I decided to just give the first dragon fight a try, and even with all of our backup, we're hardly doing any damage. The dagger is too short to get reliable hits, and our flame spell is really weak, so we're mostly leaving it to the guards to shoot him down. It was going alright for a while when suddenly hired thugs showed up out of nowhere and took us down. Well, that was horrible timing. This battle ended up taking 15 straight minutes because either the dragon or the thugs would take us down over and over. The thugs can do an execution move on us if our health is below 70% because of our lack of armor, so they're debatably more dangerous than the dragon itself. I was eventually able to take them down by running around the terrain and using obstacles to my advantage, until we could finally whittle them down with fire. After that, I mostly had to hide in the tower until the guards could finish off the dragons, since any time I chose to get close, I'd go down to 1 fire breath. In the end, though, we took them down and got our first shout. So I go and pick up Lydia from Whiterun now that she can join us, but first I empty her inventory so that she's not using non-stolen goods either. Although, somehow that leaves her with a bow that's not in her inventory, because Skyrim is weird and arbitrary. I decided to go to a random spot on the map to explore and get some chances for sneak attacks to raise our sneak skill. I went into this cave and fought some wolves, but all that was in here was a body with a staff. Unfortunately, he was already dead, so I can't steal the staff or stab the dude. After that, we're told to go to the Greybeard, so we have another mountain to climb. The fight here with the frost trolls aren't that bad as long as I keep my distance and keep using flames. I'd use my dagger, but I'm pretty sure that these guys could take me out in 1 or 2 hits, so it's just too risky. After meeting them and getting our shout, I went off to the dungeon with the horn that they wanted me to grab for them. It's mostly a dungeon of Draugr and skeletons, so nothing too bad most of the way through. I mostly used this as an opportunity to get as many sneak attacks as I could for more sneak skill. Near the end is where it gets brutal though, where the spider bears are fighting Lydia and I on a bunch of fire traps. We ran out of magicka, stamina, and nearly health before finally finishing off the last one and leveling up in the process. I easily could have lost that if I wasn't careful. Naturally, we read the note that says to go rent out the inn. When we got there, Delphine reveals herself as a member of the Blades and says that we need to go off to hunt dragons, so off we go. The fight actually ends up being really easy. Delphine helps us with the fight, and the dragon hardly ended up paying attention to me. I spent most of the time just shanking him in the wings. I love that our dude with no armor, a dagger, and a hide shield is taking credit for beating the dragon. Next, we have to get into the Thalmor embassy, but Delphine has someone on the inside. He says that he can smuggle stuff in for us, so I give him my daggers, boots, and some healing potions. Thankfully, he's perfectly fine with handling my stolen goods. Once again, we look so much like a normal partygoer. There is no way that they would be able to see through my disguise. Maybe I should have washed my face first, though? When we got to the embassy, we were asked by our guy on the inside to cause a scene so that we can slip away. Normally, I'd give some wine to this guy to bribe him into doing it, but we can't just have our guy on the inside give us some wine because that's not a stolen item. The more I looked around and talked to people, though, the more I realized that I don't think there's anything else I can do. I think that wine is actually a required quest item. We can't attack, we can't sneak, we can't even interact with any doors, so literally the only way to progress here is the wine. Well, if it's a mandatory quest item, then it's okay. Kinda lame to find out that there's no other way through this party, though. Anyway, we got our equipment back, and I tried to take down one of the guards, but even with a sneak attack, with the backstab perk, and us dual-wielding daggers, we only took him down to half health and then easily got taken out. From then on, I did the place pure stealth. Weirdly enough, though, it seems like a lot of these areas you can get caught, go through the next door, and they just forget about you. In the basement, we steal the journal, and it tells us about Esbern. We hide under the stairs, wait for the guards to come all the way down the stairs, pick one's pocket for a key, and use it to get out of there. That felt pretty good to do. I actually feel like an awesome thief for once. Apparently, Esbern was a member of the Blades that has info we need, and he lives in the Ratways under Riften, so we go straight there. The first area was pretty easy. We got some good chances at sneak attacks here. The second part, we didn't get to sneak quite as much. We actually had to fight some pretty strong Thalmor, but thankfully, just because they're strong doesn't mean they're smart. Once we got to Esbern, it's pretty easy to convince him to come with us. On our way out, we got jumped by a bunch of Thalmor, but Esbern did most of the fighting for us, so we weren't in any real danger. Anyway, once we got back to safety, Esbern told us about Alduin's wall in the Skyhaven Temple, and how it might tell us how to deal with them, so off we go. Just like last time though, we got attacked by a dragon on our way. This must be a scripted dragon attack. This time I actually have Delphine and Esbern with me though, so I was confident I'd win, but he just flew away. Weird. Later down the road though, when I got closer to Skyhaven Temple, it finally attacked and Delphine and Esbern were nowhere to be seen. The pathfinding in this game is pretty terrible, so they probably got stuck on a rock somewhere down the road. Well, because of that, I nearly ended up going down to the dragon attack, but when I got to the Skyhaven Temple, the dragon got distracted fighting the local population, so I snuck inside. The inside of the temple is super easy. One minor fight with the locals where our followers do most of the work, 2 easy puzzles, and this time we got to activate the blood seal without being covered in armor or materializing a knife. Still no blood though, someone needs to recalibrate this blood seal. Esbern tells us that the wall says to use a shout to knock the dragon out of the sky, so we head off to the Greybeards to learn the shout. They told us that Parthenax might know, so they teach me how to clear the skies, and they send me up to climb the rest of the mountain. Anyway, we reach the top where Parthenax talks for ages like usual. Short version, he tells us that there's a shout called Dragonrend that we'll need, but he doesn't know it because he's a dragon. It was made by ancient Nords, so the plan is to use an Elder Scroll to look back in time to the Nords that were trying to take down Alduin the first time, learn it from them, and then mend the time wound that they caused with their own Elder Scroll back in the day. Now, we already know where the Elder Scroll is from the last playthrough, but I'm not confident in my ability to find the dungeon on my own, so I decided to follow the main story to get the quest marker. So the short version? I talked to Esbern, and he told me to go to the Mages College. I would normally enter the college with a shout, but a dragon attacked at the exact moment and used his own dragon breath on the entry guard. So I ran north to the ice sheets to skip this step and see if we need to do it. We find him super fast, and after rambling for a little bit, he tells us what dungeon the Elder Scroll's in. Perfect, I guess we don't even need to enter the college from now on. Now, before we go, I have to steal some more stuff. Not really for me, since I still can't find any leather gear, but I could easily find a steel greatsword, so I steal that and hand it over to Lydia so that she's got a stronger weapon. I love how hilariously easy it is to steal from right in front of shopkeepers in this game. I also went around the Fighters Guild stealing a bunch of things in there, including a lot of weak arrows and some steel 2-handed weapons for Lydia. I also found a cool one-handed Skyforged steel sword. I might even use this for myself at some point. I also managed to pickpocket my first magical piece of equipment, this Ring of Stamina. I got it from someone in the local blacksmith shop. This was a solid find. I managed to even steal a solid shield from right off the back of a Whiterun guard who had his torch equipped. Maybe if I get in trouble and I need to fight, I could use this shield with a Skyforged steel sword and go toe-to-toe with them. Alright, so with all of that done, I decided to go ahead and get to Blackreach, a massive Dwemer ruin. The first section of this place is mostly full of old Dwemer guard droids. These guys aren't too bad. In fact, if we get a chance to use a power sneak attack with our new sword, we one-shot them. It's a shame that we can't loot anything here though, since I'm sure there's magical gear. It's all counted as unowned though, so nothing to steal. As I get deep enough into the dungeons, we start fighting the Forsaken. These dudes are way tougher and we died a lot down here. As you can see, we deal very little damage to them, and it's not easy to get sneak attacks on them. Even with the perk that lets sneak attacks with bows do more damage, we still only have an Imperial bow with iron arrows, so we don't do much damage. We also just passed level 10, so a lot of these guys have better equipment than they used to, and unfortunately, you can't pick these guys' pockets. Actually, now would be a great time to make a perk and item check-in. So we've got our Imperial bow and iron arrows, our decent shield and ring, as well as a hide shield, 2 steel daggers, and our Skyforged steel sword. Other than that, it's just loads of random potions that we haven't really been using yet. For perk points, it's mostly in sneak, with some levels in making it harder to be detected, as well as bonus sneak attack damage with one-handed weapons and bows. We also have a perk so our tiny amount of armor we have makes less noise, and another that makes it so we don't trigger pressure plate traps. Other than that, it's just a point making novice destruction magic cheaper to cast, and a point in light fingers so it's a little bit easier to pick pockets. Anyway, the next challenge is the giant dwarven centurion. He was actually even easier to fight in this run because our sneak skill's in his mid-40s at this point, and he keeps losing track of where we are. So occasionally our arrows do 3 times more damage because of sneak attack. Finally, we get to the big ground floor of Blackreach. This place was easily one of the most dangerous places in my previous Skyrim challenge, so I took my friend Gooseit's advice and snuck my way through the whole thing. It went amazingly cleanly, with us not running into a single enemy by the time we got to the tower. In the tower, we once again just guessed the puzzle through randomly clicking for about 30 seconds, and boom, we have an Elder Scroll. After that, I decided to go back to some basic mine near the start of the game to fight some weak bandits for more sneak skill. I was hoping that they'd have better gear now that we've passed level 10, but most of what I could pickpocket were some arrows, so the place was pretty much a bust. With that done, I finally decided to have the big battle with Alduin. Like usual, we have to use the Dragon Wren shout to keep him grounded where he takes damage, but thankfully this time we can use Clear Skies to keep the meteors from being too much of an issue. At first, I tried fighting him by spamming flames, but it was hardly doing anything, so I ended up having more luck with our stolen Imperial bow and iron arrows. It's extremely basic equipment, but by hiding behind the rocks a lot and shooting as many arrows as we can, it's not too bad. We even ended up leveling up during the fight, so I spent 2 perk points on doing more bow damage. I don't know if I'll need those in the long run, but if we can beat this fight, then I'm confident we can win the rest of them. Anyway, after raining down enough arrows, we finally beat him and he flew off. We talked to Parthenax and oh god, it's peace conference time. Okay, this is a really long chunk of the main story where you do pretty much nothing. Travel to Solitude, talk to the Imperial General. Travel to Windhelm, talk to Ulfric Stormcloak. Travel back to the Greybeards and watch an incredibly long in-game cutscene where you can't even stand up, so you can't do the sprint trick to speed up dialogue. Nothing of value to our playthrough happens here since we're just doing the main story, but you need to do it to beat the game, so I have to get it done as fast as I can. It took 16 minutes, which really isn't that bad. It just feels like an eternity because all you're doing is listening to a minute of dialogue, picking one choice, and then waiting another minute over and over and over. At the end of it, though, we have the ability to call Alduin's dragon friend. We call him to Whiterun, and the fight is on. It only took about a minute before we trapped him, though, so it was easier than I expected. Anyway, he flew us off to where Alduin's gate to Sovngarde is. As soon as we land, I tried to sneak my way out of there, but we got spotted almost instantly, so it's back to sprinting from safe spot to safe spot like last time. We couldn't handle the dragon attacks in the last run, so there's no way we can handle them with almost no armor. Once we got inside, we had to do the last real dungeon of the game. This place is mostly full of Draugr who aren't normally that bad, but a lot of them have more health than the ones we're used to fighting, so we still have to take it slow, get sneak attacks whenever I can, and rest up between fights to heal. Believe it or not, we still haven't used a potion in the entire game because I usually forget about them when they would have come in handy. I can still think of one fight we'll use them for, though. After a mostly uneventful dungeon, we sprint for the portal, get in before it closes, and now we're in Sovngarde. There's 2 fights here, so let's get to it. First is Chunk over here, the bridge guard. We have to pass a combat trial to proceed. At first, I tried fighting him with a sword and shield, but he was dealing tons of damage, to the point that we actually used a few of our stolen healing potions in the fight. After switching to some fire though, we quickly finished him off, and he let us pass. Once going into the hall and retrieving the 3 Nord warriors from the past, we run out to face Alduin in the final battle. Normally this fight is super easy because you have 4 people backing you up, but for whatever reason, Chunk's pathfinding messed up and he didn't join the fight until the other 3 had already run out of health and been downed. They'll get up eventually because they're essential characters, but in the meantime, Alduin was just focusing right on me and I was chucking health potions to stay up. Once Chunk joined in and the rest of them got up though, they provided enough of a distraction that we could get back to raining down arrows on him until we finally took down Alduin and beat the game. That run was a lot weirder than I thought it would be. Of all the problems I had, I didn't think that simply finding some armor would be one of them. I mean, I knew I'd have a hard time finding magical equipment, but I didn't think I'd be beating the game with almost no armor and an Imperial bow with iron arrows. I hope you guys like that run. For next Saturday's challenge, it's back to Pokemon with Pokemon Red with only 1 Goldeen. As always, I'm looking forward to your suggestions in the comments, in the Pokemon Challenge section of my Discord channel, and on Twitter. Subscribe, ring the bell, stay tuned. If you want to see me do more challenges like this, please let me know in the comments or on Twitter. I can always use more ideas from you guys on what I should do next. Also, check out the playlist in the description if you want to watch all the challenges that I've already uploaded. Also, come to my Twitch TV streams and tell me that this video sent you. It's always cool to hear how you found the channel. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and until next time, have a nice day.